Welcome in everybody. We're going to look at doing a follow-up tutorial to the one where we wadded up a plane like it was a piece of paper. We're going to the next step and we're actually going to throw that piece of paper into a garbage can and use physics to accomplish that. I would encourage you to click in the description and go to the link to the crumpled up paper if you haven't done that yet. But if you want to just jump right into the physics, you can just add a UV sphere. So let's begin. I'm going to go back to where I saved this to where I don't have anything other than just the piece of paper that was created in the previous tutorial. Like I said, you can just feel free to Shift A, add a mesh UV sphere, and we can accomplish the same thing with that. So we're going to set up our scene a little bit. Right now we just have our plane. That is our wadded up piece of paper. I'm going to go into front view by pressing 1. I'm going to add a garbage can. We're just going to make a simple one. Shift A, we're going to do a mesh cylinder. Move this guy over just a little bit. We're going to play with the physics a little bit to get it in the garbage can, but we just need a place to start. I am going to scale this up just a smidge. I am going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit AA to clear all the selections. Up here I've got face selection selected. I'm going to select this top face. I am going to delete this top face. I am going to delete the face. That way we have a hollow object. I'm going to change to edge select. I'm going to select that top edge and I'm just going to hit scale so we make it a little bit like a wastebasket. I'm going to go back into front view. I want to tab back into object mode and I want to scale it on the Z axis because I just want it a little bit taller. And then the other thing I want to do is I'm going to add a Solidify Modifier to it. So I'm going to go over here to Modifiers and I'm going to go to Solidify and I'm just going to scale that thickness up a little bit so that we have more of a look of a garbage can. I want a rim that hopefully we're going to try to hit and bounce off of, and I'm going to right click and shade smooth. Alright, so with that set up, I want to make this my collision object. So I'm going to go in here into physics. I'm going to select rigid body. I'm going to make it passive because I don't want it to fall through the floor. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from convex hole on shape to mesh, because if I don't change it to mesh, even though I've made a hole in here, the collision physics would wrap around that and it would bounce off of it just like the lid was still there. So when we make a hole that we're trying to go in, we want to change the collision shape to a mesh. I'm going to go back into front view, and this is where we're going to have to play just a little bit to kind of get our arc correct. So I'm going to select my object, and I want to let Blender Physics do the rotation and do the velocity. So I just kind of got to give it a kickoff, and then Blender Physics will take care of the rest of it. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a rigid body. It's going to be active, and I want to select it's animated, and I want to keyframe that it's animated. So I hit I. You could also have just clicked the button next to animated. Now then, I'm going to move up maybe 15 frames, and I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to do a G to forget. I'm going to move it up here, but I don't want it to just move. I want it to have a rotation on it. So I'm going to hit R, and I'm going to rotate a little bit this way, and then I'm going to hit RR and rotate it a little bit that way. And I'm going to do a keyframe for location and rotation, which I totally didn't do back here. So that's what I get for not paying attention, guys. So let's go back. Alright, back here, not only should I have put a keyframe on animated, but I do need to put a keyframe on where I'm starting. So I location and rotation. I'm going to move to that frame 15, and I'm going to move it up here, and I'm going to hit R, rotate, RR, rotate, I to lock that location and rotation. I want to keyframe animate it again, and then I'm going to go one frame, and I'm going to uncheck animate it, and I'm going to keyframe animate it. And we're going to roll back to 0. We're going to hit the space bar to play, and look at that. Even once it got past my frame where it was no longer being animated by me, you can see the rotation continues and the arc continues. But I didn't get enough of an arc on it, so I want to go right here back to this frame 15, and I am going to do a G. I'm going to move it a little more so I can build up a little more energy. I'm going to also rotate it a little more. I didn't feel like it was rotating enough. And then I'm going to reset those keyframes with an I and lock location and rotation. So let's jump back to 0. And look at that. I've got a much better arc. Now, we could keep playing with this to get it like we like it, but I kind of like that arc. So rather than keep on moving the ball to land it where I want to, I'm just going to cheat, and I am going to move the basket. So I'm going to hit G, and I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to scoot it over here, and I'm going to try to line it up to where it's going to hit on the rim of the basket. So let's bring this guy all the way back to 0 so it can redo the physics here, and let's let it jump, and boom. Now in this case it hits and just slides in. So what I want us to look at now is I want us to put some additional physics. So we're going to jump over here into the physics. We're going to look at the rigid body, and I want to look at surface response. Right now we have no bounciness, so it just kind of hits and slides in. I'm going to change this to 0.75, and I'm going to do the same thing on the piece of paper. Under bounciness and physics, I'm going to do 0.75, and we're going to let this play again and see what it does. I don't have enough frames for the physics to finish there, so I'm going to just up my frame lengths to 150. Let's hit play, and it bounces off one end and then bounces into the other. So let's go back right about here so I can see where it's hitting, and I'm going to just let this guy go down a little bit, and I'm going to scale him up just a little bit because I want a little bit more room to play with. So let's go all the way back, and bang, bang, look at that. And in this case it bounces out, which is not what I'm too excited about, but that's kind of the basics, guys. You want to, on your object, you want in the rigid body, you want to set it to animated, keyframe that. You want to lock and rotate your scale. You begin your arc. You again lock your rotate and scale, and you lock animated. Go one frame, uncheck animated, and lock it. That allows the physics to take over. Then you create your collision object. You can play with the friction and the bounciness. Make sure that if you're wanting to bounce off something, you can leave it with the convex hull. But if you want it to go into an object, you want it to be set to mesh. That was kind of quick and dirty. I hope it was helpful, and thank you very much for spending time with me.